Good morning. Here I am, Steve Weber, the American Gumption Morning Show. Welcome to Thursday, April 22nd, show number 161. Broadcasting here on the Spirituality Gone Wild Network and also on the American Gumption Facebook page and YouTube channel. Thank you for joining in. Alrighty, so today's going to be a monologue only, and I'm going back to my roots. I look back into the monologues that I did in week one of the show, and I think it's time to do a little refresher course on what are the 3 life lessons from the movie Forrest Gump. So that will be my monologue. I'm guessing I'm going to go about 15 minutes and maybe 20, and then we'll get out of here. So it'll be a short, abbreviated show, but the monologue, let me throw this up there. The monologue is the 3 life lessons from the movie. The most important life lessons, out of the 94 life lessons that I identified in my video series a couple years ago, what are the top 3 life lessons? So that's what I'm going to talk about today here on the American Gumption Morning Show. Alrighty, so tomorrow, let me just tell you what's happening the next couple of days. Tomorrow, Anna Homan joins us, and she is going to talk about her adventure away travel, adventureawaytravel.com, and she's got an Instagram page, and she came down with diagnosed with MS 7 years ago, and a couple of years ago she started adventure traveling, and primarily in Southwest Montana is where she is located and where she's been doing these adventures out in the wilderness. And so anyway, she's going to tell her story, her life story on how she got there and how she kind of reconnected with the, with her youth and her, the living out in the wilderness where she came from. So anyway, it's going to be a great story, and looking forward to Anna Homan tomorrow. Alrighty. Not sure if I'm going to do a show Monday. I might give myself that day off to do some projects. Do not have a guest scheduled, but next week, Wednesday, we have Nikki Roscoe returning. Nikki hasn't been here in a couple months, but she's been here many times before. So with all the good things that have happened the last few months, especially in the world of crystals and my own story, when I met Angie LaRue last couple of weeks ago, back out in, or last month, I should say, out in Boulder, Nikki introduced us to crystals the first time. So anyway, I'll have lots to talk to her about my crystal experience. Alrighty, so that's next Wednesday, and we're getting back into a little bit of a regular routine where the guests are getting lined up again, and will be joining us on a regular basis. Alrighty, so with that, that's what's happening. Anna Homan tomorrow, and then we'll have some guests next week. And not sure about Monday. We'll play that one by ear and figure it out. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and jump into that monologue. What are the 3 life lessons from the movie Forrest Gump? And yes, since Bettina's out in Seattle waking up early with us, she's probably wondering, she probably knows what the 3 life lessons are. She's heard me talk about it before, but thanks for joining us this morning, Bettina. Alrighty, So the movie Forrest Gump. So before I get into that and tell you what the 3 life lessons are, people might be wondering, well, Steve, what makes you qualified to talk about the movie life lessons? Who do you think you are? What are you, some kind of an average fan who likes the movie, and you think you're qualified to tell us what the life lessons are? Well, here's the short version. I played the character for 15 years, from 1996 to 2011. For 15 years, I worked with Bubba Gump Shrimp Company as their Forrest Gump impersonator. So I sat on the bench and had about 1 million interactions with people. I said, life's like a box of chocolates. Probably more than the average person has said it. Certainly I said it more than Mama Gump told Forrest in the movie, which was only like 3 or 4 times. So, but that's what we remember from the movie. And actually, that's kind of one of the important life lessons coming up. So stay tuned for that. All right. So I also wrote, starting in around 2010 and for the next 5 years through 2015, I wrote multiple hundred, 200 to 300 blog posts on the movie and on the different life lessons. So I kind of like looked at the movie pretty carefully and analyzed what was, what were the life lessons, and ultimately came up with the three most important life lessons. There was a lot of, originally I was like, here's the 25 most important life lessons from the movie. And that was, actually, that is a pretty good list of life lessons from the movie. But, and then I made 94 life lesson video series back in 2019 for the 25th anniversary. So I've actually, thought about this movie quite a bit and come up with 94 different scenes and life lessons from it. And then I have 25 or 32 of the most important. So I've got like 3 or 4 books written on it. They're not published, but they will be. So that's it. So played the character for 15 years, wrote several hundred blog posts, and did a video series of 94 life lessons on my YouTube channel. You can find it right now. Just search life lessons from the movie Forrest Gump, and there you will find them. All right. So that's what makes me qualified to talk about it. So the number one life lesson is the feather. The feather that floats down at the beginning of the movie and lands at the foot of Forrest Gump. And what does Forrest do? What does Forrest do? He reaches down and picks it up. And the feather represents the opportunities that come into our lives, and they're kind of like unexpected. They're kind of like serendipities. They're kind of like synchronicities, and they are the opportunities that come into our life, and they happen all the time. And I'm actually a believer that there are, like, literally everything is a feather. Everything is an opportunity. It's just a matter of how you choose to see things, and how Forrest Gump saw things. He saw the feathers, and he literally reached down and picked them up, but he also picked up those opportunities when they came into his life. And just like the feather landed at his foot and picked it up, he went through his life picking up the opportunities that came into his life. You think about the friends he made. Those were ultimately feathers. Jenny sitting on the bench, Bubba on the bench or on the bus with Forrest. The idea of going and playing football was that feather opportunity. The joining the army was a feather opportunity when the recruiter just showed up and handed him the pamphlet that said, have you given some thought to your future? And so anyway, these things happen all in our lives where weird synchronicities and things just happen. Feathers show up, opportunities show up, feathers, and we pick them up. And so that is lesson number one. And Forrest was brilliant at just recognizing when they showed up and then taking advantage of them. And in my own case, I've had many of those. I've talked about them. Being Forrest Gump was a feather that showed up in my life. Starting the American Gumption morning show and broadcasting with Spirituality Gone Wild was a feather that showed up in my life. Many friends that I've made were just like, they just show up, like you're not expecting them, and then there they are. And you have to, you have to take some action. You have to reach out. You have to, take advantage of that action. All righty. So that's lesson number one, the feather. Now, lesson number two, I already teased it. It's the chocolate box. Yes, it's the opportunity to reach into the chocolate box and pick out whatever chocolate we want. And really, my belief is that this represents the feathers that come into the choices. The chocolate box is the choices that we make in our life, and we get to pick whatever chocolate we want. So Mama Gump, what did she famously tell Forrest? She said, Forrest, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Now, I've thought about this quite a bit. And that's a great line from the movie. And it's pretty good advice that Mama gave to Forrest when he was a 5-year-old or 4-year-old child, and the other kids were being mean to him, and he didn't understand why the kids were being mean to him, and Mama's, in order to cheer him up and to make him feel a little better and to just take life as it comes, learn to take life as it comes. She said, Forrest, life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. There's, a certain amount of uncertainty, and there's, you can't control what other people do. It's unpredictable that way. So pretty good advice for mama to give to young boy. But is it really the best advice for us to live our life by? Life's like a box of chocolates. We never know what we're going to get. So I've thought about this, and I've decided that, that's really too much of the victim mentality. Life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. That kind of takes away your power of choice. You don't, you never know what you're going to get. It's like, hey, so I kind of like to flip the phrase around, and I say, life is like a box of chocolates. You get to choose whatever chocolate you want. You get to choose whatever chocolate you want, and you get to choose whatever life we want. And we actually do choose whatever life we end up getting. And if we're a glass half full person, then we're, seeing that goodness and the good opportunities. We're seeing the feathers that come into our lives on a regular basis. And if we're a glass half empty person, then we see that we don't get what we want. We're disappointed. There's always something going on. And so it's kind of a perspective and viewing thing. But if we're a fan of the law of attraction, like I am, if you're a student of the law of attraction, like I am, then you know that whatever you focus on is what you get. And so life is like a box of chocolates. We get to choose whatever chocolate we want, and we get to choose whatever life we want. So that's my life lesson. And I think that's the life lesson that I'd like to share with you from the movie. Now, you can disagree, and you can say, life's like a box of chocolates. Hey, have no control. I get whatever comes at me. And, fair enough. That's the opportunity that you have. You have that choice and opportunity to decide which way it's going to be. All right, let's get into number 3. Oh my gosh, we have people coming from us from India this morning. Thank you. It's probably evening where you are, Subhash. Thank you for joining us. So yes, and I'm guessing you're a fan of the movie Forrest Gump. I would hope so. Fans from the movie all exist all over the world. Alrighty, now let's see, what else were we doing? We're moving on to lesson number 3. This is kind of the most involved one. This is the one that I can really get into the deepest with, and that is, but it's simply represented by the shoe. This was the shoe that Jenny gave to Forrest and for his birthday. And he said it was the best birthday present I could ever get. And it was the shoe that he wore when he ran all the way across America, from one end of the country, from one ocean to the other, back again 4 times over a period of 3 years, 2 months, 14 days, and 16 hours. That was a journey. So anyway, the shoe is lesson number 3, and that is the journey of life. And what was the story of Forrest Gump all about? It was just about a man and his story and the different life chapters that he had. And let me go ahead and let me put a graphic up here. Here we go. I think I can share this now. There we go. Let's see. I'm remembering how to do all this stuff. Here we go. Now we've got that screen up there. Whoops. Is it up there? Add the screen. There it is. Okay, good. Whoops. Let me change my background. Put the blue background up there. All right. So the life journey of Forrest Gump. And so he was, and here I'm going to hold up the shoe again. This is the journey. There's the shoes in the upper left corner of the graphic. But what was the movie about? It was just about his life journey. And so he was a boy. We can see that in the lower left corner. And then he went to high school, and then he went into college and played football. And the opportunity was he ran down the field when the coach, Bear Bryant from Alabama, was there. And, it was a feather. It was an opportunity. And then the same thing with the Army. When he graduated college, the Army soldier showed up and gets hit in the head with a ping pong ball. Literally, the feather hit him in the head with a ping pong ball. And then he became, now, interestingly, he started not just following whatever opportunity came when he became a shrimp boat captain, but he made an active choice, a conscious decision to become a shrimp boat captain. It was the opportunity that Bubba gave him when he said, "Hey, you want to be a shrimp boat? Want to be the first mate, and I'll be the captain." Bubba asked Forrest, and Forrest said that was great. And then, of course, Bubba wasn't around, and Forrest decided to go ahead and do that. And Lieutenant Dan shows up and helps him become successful at the shrimping business. And then they retire, or Forrest retires, and Jenny comes home and he runs across America, and then he finds out he's a father. So that is the story of Forrest Gump, the movie, and really that's the way our own lives go. Here, I'll change the screen just a little bit there. I'll put myself in the big spot, and I'll leave the graphic up there for you to see. So Forrest, our life journey is made up of many different life chapters. We start out as children, and we go to high school, we go to grade school, we go to high school, we go to college, or we join the army, or we get our first job, and then, that job leads to some other job, and we get married, and we, have kids. I didn't do that, but most people do that. And, it's like you just go from life chapter to life chapter to life chapter. So the movie is, or the life lesson number 3 is the fact that this shoe represents that journey of life. We never get anywhere. We just keep going. It's the experience. The human experience is living life in the present moment, and then moving to the next chapter when that opportunity comes along, and then we make the choice of whether we want to do that or not, and we just keep going. And it's that experience is what life is all about. And what Forrest Gump did so brilliantly in his life, and what we can learn from, and maybe in some ways it's the most important life lesson out of those 3, the feather being the opportunities, the chocolate boxes being the choices that we make, and then of course the shoe being the journey of life. So maybe the journey is the most important component of this whole thing, because it's learning to live in the present moment. And that's what Forrest Gump did so brilliantly. He talked about his story. He sat on the bench and he recollected his story. But as you could see, when he was in each phase, in each chapter of his life, he was always fully present. He was never really, when he was living his life, he was never worried about what had happened. He wasn't living with the regrets, the woulda, shoulda, couldas, I should have done this. If only I had done that. You stupid idiot. Why did you do that? Forrest didn't live his life in the past. He lived it in that present moment. And he didn't live it in the future where he was like, when he was like in college, he wasn't worried about like what he was going to do after college. He was fully present. He was playing football. When he was in the army, he wasn't like thinking about what he had done in college so much. He was just like focusing on what he was supposed to do. What was his job now? What was he doing? Whether he was being a soldier or whether he was playing ping pong for the U.S. Army. And so he wasn't worried about what was going to happen next. Now he did end up, giving some thought to the idea that like when this chapter ends, I'm going to be, I'm going to go do but he didn't focus and dwell on, and he had his happiness. His happiness wasn't conditional on going to that next phase of his life. He was living present. And for a long time, I lived my life in kind of that future-based thing. Like when this happens, then I'll be happy. When I move to Montana, then everything will be great. Oh, and once I have my speaking business, and it was like I was constantly chasing after something that, instead of enjoying the moment, right? Instead of learning to really enjoy the moment, I was always chasing after some kind of a future thing. So, and one of the brilliant things, I'll go back to the original story of being Forrest Gump for those 15 years. One of the brilliant things about that experience was it forced me to just be in the present moment. When I was sitting on the bench, I had to be fully engaged with the people, and I loved it. And so I had this like 15-year time period where I was like 3 days a week, Monday or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sitting on the bench, interacting with the people, forced to be in the moment, forced to be present. And it was really, that's where I learned about presence. And then of course, you try to add it into the rest of your life. And so that's what happens. So that's what we can learn from the movie Forrest Gump. Let's go ahead and I got one more graphic to show you just to kind of summarize it. There we are. The 3 life lessons from the movie are the opportunities, that feather that comes into our life. And the thing about the feather is those opportunities will just sit there at your feet unless you reach down and pick them up. So action is required if you want opportunities to be meaningful. And so you reach down and you pick them up. And then the second one is the chocolate box. Oops, there we go. The chocolate box. Life is like a box of chocolates. You get to choose whatever chocolate you want, and you ultimately get to choose whatever life you want, whether it turns out good or bad. Law of attraction. Stay tuned for more on the law of attraction in future episodes. All right. And number 3 is, how do we live in that present moment? And how do we enjoy life where it is? And how do we look back at the past and have good memories about it? Positive experiences from it, learning lessons from it, but not the regrets or the shouldas or the you crazy nut. Why did you do that? You should have never done that. There's those shouldas involved. So living in the present moment, or not living in the present and not living in the future, where you are living a conditional life, like when this happens, like once I end up starting my shrimping boat company, then I'll be happy. And once I start catching shrimp, then I'll be happy. And once but rather, how do you enjoy each and every day, as Forrest Gump did, living in that present moment? So those are the 3 life lessons. The feather, represents the opportunity. The chocolate box is the choices that you make, and the sneaker is the journey of life. All righty. Well, I think that's it. That's a pretty good little 20-minute segment for the show. Let's go ahead and wrap up. Let's come back tomorrow and do this all over with a guest. Let's find out how Anna Holman is living her life with Gumption, and she'll tell us her story about the opportunities and the choices and the journey that she is making in her life. So that is tomorrow on Friday. Anna Holman and the adventureawaytravel.com. Nikki Roscoe next Wednesday. Not sure if I'm doing a show Monday, since I'm saying this way. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But I feel like I'll wrap up by leaving this thought. I feel like the show is, I've come back. I went on my 3.5-week journey. I realized that it's time to focus, refocus the show, prepare for going out and living and working on the road for the next 4 to 7 years. And so those first couple of months, I did a lot of Gumption. The first back in August and September of when I first started broadcasting my first 35 or 40 shows, I did a lot of Gumption thing, and then I kind of just did a lot of interviews and let people be people and talk about their story. And now I'm wondering, how do we bring those Gumption principles? It is American Gumption, the name of the show. How do we integrate Gumption on a more regular basis in the show? So today, it was just, I was inspired that I wanted to do this, the Gumption, or the 3 life lessons from the movie. And then I'm sure next week I'll talk about Gumption, the 3 principles of Gumption, and tie those together. And so it's all about those opportunities, choices, and journeys, and personal responsibility for your thoughts, actions, and interactions with others. That's what American Gumption is all about. And what are those other spokes that we'll go out and do with the American Gumption as the hub? And what are the kind of conversations we want to have here? So that's what's on the agenda. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, April 22nd. Hope you enjoyed today's show. I'll see you all tomorrow. Here we go. There, closing song.